Have you ever heard the story of Samson, the man who defeated entire armies single-handedly, only to fall at the hands of a woman? This is the story of a hero chosen by God, but who, in a moment of weakness, lost everything. And a question remains: what really drove Delilah to betray him? Greed, fear, or something darker? Stay with me to discover this epic and surprising story. In a time of profound darkness, when the lands of Israel were suffocated by Philistine oppression, the people lived under the weight of fear and anguish. Every day, the Philistines raided Israelite villages, plundering their crops, destroying their homes, and spreading terror like a shadow that covered the entire nation. The people of Israel felt crushed, without the strength to fight, as if their very future had been taken from them. It was a time when hope seemed on the verge of disappearing, and the light of justice seemed distant. It was in this desperate scenario that God, in his infinite wisdom and compassion, raised up a man who would be more than a mere warrior. He would be the liberator of Israel, divine power incarnate in a human being. His name was Samson. The moment he was conceived, his life was marked by an unbreakable promise. The angel of the Lord appeared to Samson's mother even before his conception, to reveal that he would be consecrated to God from the womb. The Nazirite vow, which he was to follow, was not just a set of spiritual rules, but a clear sign that Samson's life belonged not to him, but to God himself. The Nazirite vow was a solemn promise, involving abstaining from certain worldly pleasures, such as wine and unclean food, and maintaining one's hair as a visible sign of one's consecration to God. It was not simply a matter of following rules, but a profound mark of separation from the world. Samson was, therefore, a figure of holiness and dedication, from his childhood until his death. He was born not only to live, but to fulfill a divine purpose that would demand more than physical strength. It would require courage, wisdom, and, above all, the ability to remain faithful to the divine plan even in the face of the greatest adversity. The responsibility Samson carried from the moment of his birth was immense. He was not like other men. His life was not his to decide. His choices were not his to make selfishly. He was chosen to be God's instrument for the liberation of an entire people, and this burden of being Israel's deliverer would remain with him throughout his life. His every action, every victory, every defeat was linked to the fulfillment of the divine plan. From a young age, Samson knew he was different. He felt the mark of his mission, but also the weight of that responsibility. While other children played and lived carefree, Samson had a greater calling. He was to be the defender of his people, a man whose physical strength was supernatural, but whose mission was rooted in a direct relationship with God. But this responsibility also came with moments of solitude and reflection. He knew that every victory would be temporary, and that his life could not be lived just for himself, but for the entire people of Israel. Delilah appeared in Samson's life as a breath of gentleness and understanding, something he had never experienced amid his struggles and loneliness. Unlike the women who saw him only as an invincible hero, Delilah seemed to see something deeper in him, a man with his fears, desires, and weaknesses. Her beauty and calm presence attracted Samson, who sought, above all, to be understood and genuinely loved. She approached him patiently, unhurriedly, gradually building trust between them. With each encounter, Delilah became more attentive, listening to his words and, most importantly, calming his concerns. For Samson, she represented an escape from the pressure he felt as Israel's liberator, someone who, however strong, needed to be accepted and loved. But Delilah was no ordinary woman. Behind her facade of care and affection lay a much darker agenda. She knew that Samson's true strength came from his vow to God, and his advances were not motivated by love, but by the promise of a great reward from the Philistines, who wished to overthrow the man who had become their greatest threat. She not only seduced Samson, but also became the key to destroying his invincibility. Delilah realized that Samson's heart, vulnerable to the desire to be loved, was the weak point she could exploit. Every lie he told, every secret she extracted from him was another step toward his downfall. Delilah's emotional manipulation was gradual, almost imperceptible, until finally she knew exactly where to press, and Samson, blinded by passion and the need for acceptance, revealed his greatest secret. It was that night, when their trust seemed unbreakable and the intimacy of their relationship was at its peak, that Delilah asked the question that would change everything. "Samson, have you ever wondered what would make you weak? Is there anything that can take away your strength?" The question seemed innocent, but she knew exactly what she was asking. Samson, accustomed to facing physical battles and even the most formidable Philistines, was unprepared for such a direct attack on his heart. He, who had always been unbeatable, now found himself facing a woman who made him question his emotional vulnerability. In that moment of emotional weakness, he responded, unaware that he was handing over the key to his downfall. He told Delilah that if he were tied with 7 fresh bowstrings, he would lose his strength. It was a lie, but a lie he believed to be safe, not understanding what was to come. Delilah then pursued her ruthless strategy. She waited for Samson to fall asleep, trusting the words he had given her, and bound him with the 7 cords. She called the Philistines, eager to see Samson captured, but he quickly broke free, as he always had. He continued to lie, trying to hide the true secret. But Delilah did not give up. With each lie Samson told, she moved closer to her goal, to destroy his trust and, at the same time, destroy what he valued most. With each failed attempt, she understood more about his weaknesses and how to manipulate him. It was then, after numerous attempts and lies, that Delilah found the true key to her defeat. Samson's heart. She knew that, rather than attacking his physical strength directly, she should exploit his need to be loved and understood. And it was this vulnerability that Delilah used to trick Samson into revealing the secret he should never have told. Samson's heart, the only place he still believed he was safe, was the last battlefield where Delilah triumphed. Delilah, like a patient and calculating spider, continued to weave her web around Samson. With each refusal to tell the truth, she became more cunning, escalating her accusations. She accused him of not loving her enough, of not trusting her, as he should, until she reached the deepest part of his heart. Samson, already exhausted by the internal struggle between his love and the need to protect his secret, gave in. In his heart, he had already succumbed to the idea that Delilah was the only one who truly understood him. And in that moment of vulnerability, he revealed the key to his strength. "My hair has never been cut," he said, revealing what made him invincible, his connection to God through the Nazirite vow. "If my hair is cut, my strength will be gone." These words, filled with desperation and trust in love, sealed his fate. Delilah, with a hidden smile of victory, knew that this secret was the final piece she needed to complete her manipulation. That night, as Samson slept, Delilah cut off his braids, laying the blades upon his power and hope. The hair, which had been the symbol of his consecration and divine strength, now lay on the ground, and with it, Samson's last connection to his. life's purpose. Upon waking, Samson didn't immediately know what had happened. He declared himself, believing that once again he could face any threat, as he had in so many battles before. But something was wrong. He tried to move, to try to fight, but his body didn't respond. The man who had defeated entire forces with his own hands was now weak and helpless. Each one seemed to have lost their strength, as if the very essence of his strength had vanished. He tried to rise and face the Philistines, but reality hit him hard. He was no longer the invincible man he once was. Samson's fall was not just physical, but spiritual and emotional. He had lost more than his strength. He had lost confidence in himself and in the divine mission that guided him. Delilah, in achieving her goal, became a central figure not only in Samson's downfall, but also in her own downfall. She acted not out of simple revenge, but out of a treacherous greed that blinded her to the consequences of her actions. Though she appeared to be motivated by a desperate quest for power and security, the truth is that Delilah found herself increasingly consumed by the desire to please the Philistines, while simultaneously proving to herself that she could control even the strongest man in Israel. She knew that by mastering Samson's greatest weakness, his heart and his love for her, she could destroy the symbol of strength she so feared. But what Delilah failed to understand was that her own downfall was intertwined with Samson's destruction. Her betrayal brought not the satisfaction of power, but the weight of guilt and impending doom. By cutting off Samson's braids and handing him over to his enemies, Delilah not only destroyed a hero, but sealed the fate of her own soul. As the Philistines led Samson to Gaza, Delilah likely believed her victory was assured, that she would finally have what she always wanted, the safety she sought and the Philistines' approval. But as she witnessed Samson's fall, she was unaware that something more was at stake. Delilah had manipulated and played with Samson's heart, using his emotional fragility against him. However, she failed to grasp the depth of Samson's spiritual connection with God. By cutting off his braids, she destroyed not only his physical strength, but something much greater, Samson's connection to his divine purpose. And while she basked in her apparent victory, the seeds of her own downfall began to grow. Delilah never imagined that her quest for power would result in her own humiliation, for by betraying him, she had defied God himself, whose plan for Samson could not be stopped. She became the tragic character who, in seeking to control another's destiny, ultimately lost control of her own. Delilah's tragedy lies not only in Samson's betrayal, but in the belated realization that in destroying someone else's life, she has destroyed her own as well. In the darkness and solitude, Samson found redemption. His hair grew back, and with it, his connection to God. Samson began to pray in repentance. He knew his life was coming to an end, but he also knew that God could still use him for something great. The Philistines, in their arrogance, planned a grand festival to celebrate Samson's defeat. Thousands gathered at the temple of Dagon, laughing and toasting. But when Samson was brought to them, led by a servant, something happened. Blind and humiliated, he was placed between the two main pillars of the temple. With his hands, he touched the pillars, feeling his strength renewed. And with a final cry of faith, Samson pushed against the pillars. The temple collapsed, taking with it thousands of Philistines, including their leaders. Samson fulfilled the purpose for which he was called, to defeat the Philistines and free Israel. Delilah's betrayal did not bring the peace or satisfaction she had hoped for. Instead, Delilah lost something more important. She lost her integrity and her worth before God. Her act of deceiving and betraying Samson not only placed her in opposition to the divine force that sustained the man she betrayed, but it also isolated Delilah. By manipulating and controlling the life of another human being, she distanced herself from the very thing that could truly bring security, trust in God. In the end, Delilah was left with the knowledge that by manipulating a man with a divine destiny, she had not achieved what she wanted, but rather condemned herself to live with the responsibility of an irreversible action. Comment below and share your thoughts. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to watch the video about Jezebel, a woman so powerful she defied even God's own prophets. And if you haven't subscribed yet, sign up now and be part of this journey.